The Pentagon. The Pentagon is the headquarters of the United States Department of Defense. As a symbol of the U.S. military, the phrase "the Pentagon" is often used as a metonym for the Department of Defense and its leadership. Located in Arlington County, Virginia, across the Potomac River from Washington, D.C., the building was designed by American architect George Bergstrom and built by contractor John McShain. Ground was broken on September 11, 1941, and the building was dedicated on January 15, 1943. General Brehon Somervell provided the major motivating power behind the project. Colonel Leslie Groves was responsible for overseeing the project for the U.S. Army. The Pentagon is the world's largest office building, with about 6,500,000 square feet of space, of which 3,700,000 square feet are used as offices. Some 23,000 military and civilian employees, and another 3,000 non-defense support personnel, work in the Pentagon. It has 5 sides, 5 floors above ground, 2 basement levels, and 5 ring corridors per floor, with a total of 17.5 miles of corridors. The central 5-acre pentagonal plaza is nicknamed Ground Zero on the presumption that it would be a prime target in a nuclear war. On September 11, 2001, exactly 60 years after the building's construction began, American Airlines Flight 77 was hijacked and flown into the western side of the building, killing 189 people, 59 victims and the 5 perpetrators on board the airliner, as well as 125 victims in the building, according to the 9/11 Commission report. It was the first significant foreign attack on Washington's governmental facilities since the city was burned by the British during the War of 1812. The Pentagon is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and is a National Historic Landmark. The Pentagon building spans 28.7 acres, and includes an additional 5.1 acres as a central courtyard. Starting with the north side and moving clockwise, its 5 facades are the Mall Terrace entrance facade, the River Terrace entrance facade, the Concourse entrance, or Metro Station, facade, the South Parking entrance facade, and the Heliport facade. On the north side of the building, the mall entrance, which also features a portico, leads out to a 600 feet long terrace that is used for ceremonies. The river entrance, which features a portico projecting out 20 feet, 6.1 n, is on the northeast side, overlooking the lagoon and facing Washington. A step terrace on the river entrance leads down to the lagoon, and a landing dock was used until the late 1960s to ferry personnel between Bolling Air Force Base and the Pentagon. The main entrance for visitors is on the southeast side, as of the Pentagon Metro Station and the bus station. There is also a concourse on the southeast side of the second floor of the building, which contains a mini shopping mall. The south parking lot adjoins the southwest facade, and the west side of the Pentagon faces Washington Boulevard. Floors in the Pentagon are lettered B for basement and M for mezzanine, both of which are below ground level. The concourse is on the second floor of the metro entrance. Above ground floors are numbered 1 to 5. Room numbers are given as the floor, concentric ring, and office number. The complex includes eating and exercise facilities, and meditation and prayer rooms. Tours for the public were suspended after the 2001 attack. Just south of the Pentagon are Pentagon City and Crystal City, extensive shopping, business, and high-density residential districts in Arlington. Arlington National Cemetery is to the north. The Pentagon is surrounded by the relatively complex Pentagon Road network. The Pentagon has 6 Washington, D.C. zip codes, despite its location in Virginia. The Secretary of Defense, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the 4 service branches each have their own zip code. Before the Pentagon was built, the United States Department of War was headquartered in the Munitions Building, a temporary structure erected during World War I along Constitution Avenue on the National Mall. The War Department, which was a civilian agency created to administer the U.S. Army, was spread out in additional temporary buildings on the National Mall, as well as dozens of other buildings in Washington, D.C., Maryland and Virginia. In the late 1930s, a new War Department building was constructed at 21st and C Streets in Foggy Bottom, but, upon completion, the new building did not solve the department's space problem and ended up being used by the Department of State. When World War II broke out in Europe, the War Department rapidly expanded in anticipation that the United States would be drawn into the conflict. Secretary of War Henry L. Stimson found the situation unacceptable, with the munitions building overcrowded and the department spread out. Stimson told U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt in May 1941 that the War Department needed additional space. On July 17, 1941, a congressional hearing took place, organized by Virginia Congressman Clifton Woodrum, regarding proposals for new War Department buildings. Woodrum pressed Brigadier General Eugene Raybould, who was representing the War Department at the hearing, for an overall solution to the department's space problem rather than building yet more temporary buildings. Raybould agreed to report back to the congressman within 5 days. The War Department called upon its construction chief, General Brehon Somervell, to come up with a plan. Contracts totaling $31,100,000 were finalized with McShain and the other contractors on September 11th, and ground was broken for the Pentagon the same day. Among the design requirements, Somervell required the structural design to accommodate floor loads of up to 150 pounds per square foot, which was done in case the building became a record storage facility at some time after the end of the current war. A minimal amount of steel was used as it was in short supply during World War II. Instead, the Pentagon was built as a reinforced concrete structure, using 680,000 tons of sand dredged from the Potomac River, and a lagoon was created beneath the Pentagon's river entrance. To minimize steel usage, concrete ramps were built rather than installing elevators. Indiana limestone was used for the building's facade. The Pentagon became a focal point for protests against the Vietnam War during the late 1960s. A group of 2,500 women, organized by Women's Strive for Peace, demonstrated outside of Secretary of Defense Robert S. McNamara's office at the Pentagon on February 15, 1967. In May 1967, a group of 20 demonstrators held a sit-in outside the Joint Chiefs of Staff's office, which lasted 4 days before they were over. In one of the better-known incidents, on October 21, 1967, some 35,000 anti-war protesters organized by the National Mobilization Committee to End the War in Vietnam gathered for a demonstration at the Defense Department, the March on the Pentagon, where they were confronted by some 2,500 armed soldiers. During the protest, a famous picture was taken, where George Harris placed carnations into the soldiers' gun barrels. The march concluded with an attempt to exorcise the building. On September 11, 2001, the 60th anniversary of the Pentagon's groundbreaking, a team of 5 al-Qaeda-affiliated hijackers took control of American Airlines Flight 77, en route from Washington Dulles International Airport to Los Angeles International Airport, and deliberately crashed the Boeing 757 airliner into the western side of the Pentagon at 9:37 immediately as part of the September 11, 2001 attacks. All 59 civilians and the 5 terrorists on the airliner were killed, as were 70 civilians and 55 military personnel who were with the building. The impact of the plane severely damaged the outer ring of one wing of the building and caused its partial collapse. At the time of the attacks, the Pentagon was under renovation and many offices were, resulting in fewer casualties. Only 800 of 4,500 people who would have been in the area were there because of the work. Furthermore, the area hit, on the side of the heliport facade, was the section best prepared for such an attack. Contractors already involved with the renovation were given the added task of rebuilding the sections damaged in the attacks. This additional project was named the Phoenix Project, and was charged with having the outermost windows 2 inches thick and 2,500 pounds each that stayed intact during the crash and re. It had rear doors that opened automatically and newly built exits that allowed people to get out. When the damaged section of the Pentagon was repaired, a small indoor memorial and chapel were at the point of impact. For the 5th anniversary of the September 11, 2001 attacks, a memorial of 184 beams of light shone up from the center courtyard of the Pentagon, one light for each victim of the attack. In addition, an American flag is hung each year on the side of the Pentagon damaged in the attacks, and the side of the building is illuminated at night with blue light. After the attacks, plans were developed for an outdoor memorial, with construction underway in 2006. This Pentagon Memorial consists of a park on 2 acres of land, containing 184 benches, one dedicated to each victim. The benches are aligned along the line of Flight 77 according to the victims' ages, from 3 to 71. The park opened to the public on September 11, 2008. On the building's main concourse is the Hall of Heroes, open 1968 and dedicated to the more than 3,460 recipients of the Medal of Honor, the United States' highest military decoration. The 3 versions of the Medal of Honor, Army, Sea Service, for the Marine Corps, Navy, and Coast Guard, and Air Force, are on display along with the names of recipients. The hall is also used for promotions, retirements, and other ceremonies. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Footprints for more videos.